Heartstrings. It was dusk. A pinkish hue emanated from the dying sun in the Mexican adobe town. Coyotes rifled through the tipped-over garbage cans. Trash aimlessly floated about the nearly empty town. A guitarist sat alone in front of a local bar. He had a cerveza by his side, half-filled. He took a sip, letting the cold elixir fill his dry mouth. In the driest regions of the world, drinks take on a magical note. They transcend the simplest physical interpretations of a drink. They bear a stark poetic contrast to the scene surrounding the drink. A drink in an arid town takes on the visage of serenity. The guitarist put the drink down and cracked his knuckles. His fingers had blood blisters from playing on the worn-out strings. He hadn't changed them since he was a young boy, but against all suppositions, he could play beautiful melodies as if they were new and tightly wound. The guitarist played a song that he's played his entire life. His fingers swept across the strings, plucking them periodically. Two lone gunmen face off, guns drawn. The guitarist didn't notice them. He was fixated entirely on his guitar and the repetitious melody. The lone gunmen watched each other's movements. Both their fingers were inches away from pulling the trigger. They were a moment from erasing any evidence of the other's life. The dead gunman would be lost amidst the dust of the barren land, only to be resurrected again the next day when the guitarist played his song. As they approached each other, the guitarist's melody rose in a tumultuous wave following the tension of both gunmen. And without any thought or reason, one of the gunmen pulled the trigger, sending the other onto his back. The rising tension of the guitarist's melody died down, cushioning the strings to a mournful melody. A gravedigger ran out of his house and dragged the gunman off to his grave. The grave had been dug up several times. An impression where the dead gunman had lain for years embraced the dead man. It welcomed him to his proper place. The guitar whined on as the gravedigger filled up the hole. The sun was on the edge of death when a young girl walked into the lonesome town. She stopped by the gravedigger and held his hand. The gravedigger, for the first time in his life, threw down his shovel. The guitarist looked up from his strings and stared at the ensuing scene. He insisted on playing that repetitious melody even faster now, but the gravedigger paid no heed to the sorrowful melody. He stared into the young girl's eyes, and in his mind's eye he saw a plenitude of optimism. And they ran off, hand in hand. The surviving gunman threw down his gun and hung himself. His feet dangled above the guitarist, and all the while the guitarist obstinately played his melody. His fingers plucked at the strings until one snapped. The guitarist didn't know what to make of it. Everything he knew was disrupted by that girl, and he never played a single note ever again. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to support the Simulation Podcast, you can donate to my Patreon account. Any amount would be extraordinarily helpful. The link will be in the description along with all my social media accounts.